die for your country, I'm gonna live for mine.
In the mountains of Afghanistan, 4 Navy SEALs find themselves trapped behind enemy lines, outnumbered by hundreds of Taliban fighters. What begins as a routine mission quickly turns into a desperate fight for survival and brotherhood. This is the true story of courage, sacrifice, and the men who refused to quit. Lone Survivor. The movie opens in June 2005 at Bagram Air Base in Afghanistan, where members of Navy SEAL Team 10 prepare for a critical mission known as Operation Red Wings. Their objective is to locate and eliminate Ahmad Shah, a Taliban leader responsible for killing numerous U.S. Marines and Afghan civilians in the rugged mountains of Kunar Province, near the Korengal Valley. Inside the operations tent, commanders brief the men on every detail of the mission, the terrain, the target, and the extraction plan. The operation will begin at 1800 hours, with 2 Chinooks and 2 Blackhawks transporting the SEALs toward the mountains. A 4-man reconnaissance unit will be inserted deep into enemy territory to locate Shah. Once they confirm visual contact or neutralize the target, a larger support force, 15 SEALs and 12 Marines, will be standing by to move in for extraction. The primary recon team consists of 4 highly trained men: Lieutenant Michael Murphy, the team leader; Hospital Corpsman Marcus Luttrell, the team's medic; Danny Dietz, communications specialist; and Matthew Axelson, the team's sniper. Calm, focused, and efficient, they prepare their weapons and gear, knowing this mission could be one of the most dangerous of their careers. As evening falls, the SEAL teams gear up and move toward the waiting helicopters. The air is filled with the steady hum of engines and the focused energy of soldiers who know what's at stake. The primary reconnaissance unit, Murphy, Luttrell, Dietz, and Axelson, board their Chinook, ready for insertion into the mountains. The sun disappears behind the Afghan horizon as the aircraft cut through the night sky toward their target zone. Under the cover of darkness, the helicopters reach the drop point deep in Taliban territory. The 4 SEALs disembark silently, crouching low as the rotor wash fades into the distance. They are now alone, surrounded by steep cliffs and dense forest. Using their thermal optics, they begin moving through the rocky terrain, careful with every step. By dawn, they finally approach their designated observation point. From their vantage position, they can see the small village below, home to Ahmad Shah and his fighters. Danny Dietz, the team's communications specialist, attempts to establish a connection with the base. The signal cuts in and out, the mountains blocking transmission. After several tries, he manages to get a brief message through, confirming that the team has reached the objective. They move to a new ridge for a better view of the village, setting up an observation position to scope out Ahmad Shah's compound from a safer distance. From there, the team scans the area through optics and realizes the village is far larger and more heavily defended than they expected. Dozens of fighters moving about, far more than any of them anticipated. They also spot Ahmad Shah himself, but he's too distant for a clean shot. Even Axe, their sniper, says they can't guarantee a kill from that range. Feeling exposed on the ridge, the 4 SEALs slide down into thicker brush to reduce their silhouette, then try to rest. They take turns keeping watch. Dietz stays awake to handle communications while the others catch a few hours of sleep. Before long, a herd of goats and 3 local shepherds disturb the position. One of the boys stumbles into the bush where Marcus Luttrell is hiding, and the team is forced to restrain the civilians. Searching them, they find one man carrying a walkie-talkie, a worrying sign. Dietz struggles to get reliable comms. Transmissions keep dropping in the mountains. Murphy switches to the satellite phone and finally connects to base long enough to start a report, but the link cuts out before he can finish. Isolated and without firm intel, the team must make a decision fast. The debate is tense and immediate. If the villagers are Taliban informants, releasing them means they'll run to the village and raise the alarm, which would leave the SEALs surrounded and vulnerable. Axe argues for eliminating the threat to protect the mission and the team. Marcus, as the corpsman, insists they can't kill unarmed civilians. Doing so would carry severe consequences if discovered. In the end, Murphy gives the order to release the shepherds and move to a nearby hill to attempt extraction, effectively canceling the mission. They release the villagers and start moving uphill, trying to reach the top of the mountain to make the call for extraction. As they leave, the youngest of the villagers runs down the slopes as fast as he can, clearly heading back to the village to raise the alarm. The SEALs keep climbing, pushing toward what they believe is the highest point. Once there, they realize they've reached a false summit and still don't have the elevation or signal they need. Dietz tries to contact the base using the radio, and Murphy attempts the satellite phone, but both fail. With no communication, they decide to move down toward the trees for cover. If they can't establish contact from there, they'll stay hidden through the night and start walking back toward the base in the morning. While resting under the cover of the trees, the team begins to notice subtle movements in the distance, branches shifting, faint silhouettes between the rocks. Murphy quietly signals the others to stay low and moves forward alone for a quick 2-minute reconnaissance. Crawling to the edge of the slope, he scans the surrounding ridges and realizes they're surrounded. Across the crest of the hill, he counts roughly 25 armed men, with several more moving through the trees below. The enemy is already in position and closing in from multiple sides. Murphy returns to the group, his voice calm but urgent, telling them what he's seen. They're surrounded and need to get ready to fight. Marcus takes aim on Murphy's order and fires the first shot, breaking the silence of the forest.
Do it.
The gunfight erupts instantly. The SEALs return heavy fire, hitting several enemy fighters almost immediately. Danny Dietz, while trying to re-establish communication with the base, is struck in the right hand by a bullet that tears through his fingers. Despite the pain, he keeps fighting. The SEALs continue engaging the enemy, taking down more combatants, but there are too many. The Taliban fighters push closer from all directions, and although the SEALs are hit multiple times, none of the wounds are yet fatal. The firefight grows more intense with every passing second.
Right is no good! Right is no good!
Seeing themselves surrounded, the SEALs decide to fall back and leap off a steep cliff in a desperate attempt to escape. They tumble down the rocky slope, crashing through trees and hitting boulders as they fall for several meters. Battered and bruised, all four manage to get back on their feet and take cover behind a large rock. Murphy tells the team they need to reach flat ground if they want a chance to fight them off. But before they can move, gunfire erupts again from above. The SEALs return fire, then sprint toward the trees to gain some distance. As they run, Danny is hit in the torso and collapses. Marcus rushes to him, dragging him through the dirt while bullets strike around them. The surviving men keep moving, diving behind another group of rocks as the enemy continues closing in. While taking cover behind the rocks, Marcus checks on his teammates' wounds. Danny is in the worst condition, hit several times and struggling to stay conscious. Suddenly, gunfire erupts again as the enemy closes in from multiple directions. The SEALs throw smoke grenades to create cover and move toward another nearby cliff, their only escape route. Murphy and Axe jump first, crashing through branches as they fall down the steep slope. Marcus, carrying Danny on his back, prepares to jump next, but just as he's about to leap, Danny is shot in the shoulder. The force causes Marcus to lose his grip and he slips, falling down the cliff alone, while Danny remains wounded and stranded above. Danny, gravely wounded and barely breathing, lies at the top of the ridge, surrounded by Ahmad Shah and a group of Taliban fighters. Below, Axe, Murphy, and Marcus desperately discuss a plan to reach him, bring him down, and lure the enemy into open ground where they could fight more effectively. But the climb is steep, and enemy fire makes it nearly impossible.
You can die for your country, I'm gonna live for mine. Marcus, move!
Knowing there's only one chance left, Murphy decides to climb back up the mountain to get a signal on the satellite phone and call for help. He understands it's a suicide mission, but it's the only way to save his team. Before leaving, he gives his remaining ammunition to Marcus. As Murphy starts his ascent, Axe and Marcus open fire, laying down suppressive shots to cover him. Bullets strike around them as the two fight to keep the enemy's attention away from Murphy. Reaching higher ground, Murphy finally gets a signal and makes contact with the Quick Reaction Force base. Under heavy fire, he clearly reports their position and requests immediate reinforcements and evacuation for his team. Just after confirming the call, Murphy is struck by enemy gunfire, falling to the ground fatally wounded. At the top of the ridge, Danny, gravely wounded and unable to fight back, lies surrounded by Ahmad Shah and his men. One of the Taliban raises his rifle, and a single gunshot ends Danny's life. After Murphy's death, Marcus and Axe manage to regroup. Axe is barely standing. He's been shot in the head, the wound bleeding heavily, yet he continues fighting with determination. The two exchange quick words, knowing they're running out of ammunition and options. Moments later, they come under heavy fire again and decide to split up, hoping to confuse the enemy and increase their chances of survival. Meanwhile, in response to Murphy's distress call, a Quick Reaction Force team prepares to rescue the remaining SEALs. 2 Chinook helicopters are dispatched to the combat zone, carrying 8 Navy SEALs and 8 Marines. Because 2 Apache gunships are engaged in another mission, the Chinooks are forced to proceed without air support. As the rescue helicopters approach the valley, Marcus and Axe spot them from below and feel a surge of hope. But just as one of the Chinooks moves into position to deploy the rescue team, a rocket-propelled grenade streaks through the air and hits it directly. The helicopter explodes in midair and crashes into the mountainside, killing all 16 soldiers on board instantly. The second Chinook performs an evasive maneuver and withdraws from the area. The risk of staying in the kill zone is too high. The remaining SEALs are now completely on their own. Axe, running out of ammunition and surrounded, tries to find cover behind a tree line. He fires at the approaching insurgents, taking down several of them before being hit again. Severely wounded and unable to move, he collapses beside a tree, where a final shot ends his struggle. Marcus Luttrell, still alive, is soon discovered by Taliban fighters. One of them fires a rocket-propelled grenade, and the explosion throws Marcus down into a rock crevice. Dazed and injured, he hides among the stones as enemy fighters search above. At that moment, a US Apache helicopter flies over the crash site of the destroyed Chinook, drawing the Taliban's attention away and giving Marcus a chance to stay hidden. Exhausted, Marcus eventually loses consciousness. By the next morning, he wakes up with a badly wounded leg and begins to move again, limping through the harsh terrain to get away from the combat zone. Reaching a small stream, he drinks water and tries to recover, but soon encounters a group of local Pashtun villagers. Instead of turning him in, they help him. One of them, Mohammed Gulab, brings Marcus to his village, shelters him in his home, and sends another villager to the nearest US base to alert the military of Marcus's location. The Taliban fighters follow Marcus Luttrell's blood trail through the mountains until they reach the village where he's hiding. They go house to house, searching every corner until they find him and drag him outside to execute him. But before they can pull the trigger, Gulab and the villagers intervene, pointing their weapons and threatening to kill the Taliban if they harm Marcus. Outnumbered for the moment, the insurgents back off, warning that everyone in the village will die for protecting the American. Marcus is taken back inside Gulab's home, weak and in pain. He pulls out a large, sharp piece of rock that had pierced through his thigh, then passes out from the agony. Gulab tends to his wounds, changes his clothes, and helps him recover. The villagers, knowing the Taliban will return, begin arming themselves and preparing to defend their homes. At dawn, Marcus wakes up weak but alive. Gulab brings him food, but before he can finish eating, the Taliban launch their attack on the village. Heavily armed fighters storm through the streets as the villagers return fire. At the same time, at the US base, helicopters and aircraft scramble to take off. They've just received word of Marcus's location. The battle in the village intensifies. Taliban fighters break through the defenses and storm the houses. One insurgent finds Marcus inside, and after a violent struggle, Marcus manages to kill him. Outside, Gulab faces Tarak, one of Ahmad Shah's men, and kills him in close combat. Moments later, 5 US helicopters and several fighter jets arrive, opening fire on the Taliban and regaining control of the village. The surviving insurgents retreat into the mountains as US forces secure the area. The Marines find Marcus inside Gulab's home and pull him out. Barely conscious, he asks them to take Gulab and the boy who helped him, but the Marines explain that it isn't possible. Marcus thanks Gulab for saving his life before being evacuated by helicopter. Severely injured and near death, he loses consciousness on the flight back to base. At the base, doctors fight to revive him, using defibrillators until his pulse returns. The film closes with Marcus's voice reflecting on the promise he made to his brothers, to never quit the fight. The screen fades to black with the words, "Dedicated to the men of Operation Red Wings."